Welcome to the Superintendent's Hangout, where we discuss topics in education, charter schools, life in general, and not necessarily in that order. I'm your host, Dr. Sharetta. Come on in and hang out. This episode is brought to you by McGriff Insurance Services and Senior Vice President Mike Lutosky. For over a century, McGriff has focused on building long-term relationships to deliver innovative insurance solutions. The McGriff name dates back to 1886 and the founding of McGriff, Sables, and Williams. Today, McGriff is part of Truist Insurance Holdings, Inc., one of the top 10 largest insurance brokers in the world. McGriff provides highly consultative risk management and insurance solutions for businesses of all sizes, as well as for personal insurance needs. Coverages available include commercial property and casualty, small business, employee benefits, management liability, personal lines, and much more. Mike Lutosky's expertise is wide-ranging and includes transitioning employers from fully insured to partially self-funded medical, dental, and vision programs, HRA wrap programs, reference-based pricing, healthcare pricing transparency, pharmacy consulting, wellness programs, marketing, implementation, and ongoing management of fully insured benefit plans, and much more. Mike can be reached on his cell phone at 619-925-1731. All proceeds from this sponsorship support the Eric C. Mitchell Scholarship Fund at Albert Einstein Academies. The scholarship benefits graduates who exemplify the outstanding human qualities that define Mr. Mitchell's legacy. In this episode, I sat down with Claudia Lorenz, a.k.a. Frau Claudia, and Travis Klein, a.k.a. Mr. Klein. Travis and Claudia are music educators, but their influence and impact on students goes far beyond simply teaching music in schools. Both are fundamentally entrepreneurs, having built their respective music programs out of whole cloth. Frau Claudia started as a parent volunteer, playing a guitar in a kindergarten class and teaching German through music and movement. And that snowballed over the years into a full-time position. And she's written music and a curriculum, and it's very inspiring to hear about her journey, also her own personal academic journey in the United States. She's a native of Austria. And Travis is a very humble, talented professional musician outside of his teaching duties. And he has had an equal impact on students. I can recall when Mr. Klein first started, he was basically handed a bunch of instruments, an interest list from students whose parents had signed them up to learn, quote unquote, music. And Travis didn't even have a place to store the instruments, let alone dedicated practice space. This is a very inspiring conversation and gets to both the art and the science of teaching and cognition. I hope you enjoy this episode as much as I did recording it. Okay, welcome to the Superintendent's Hangout. Frau Claudia, Travis Klein, thanks for coming in and chatting for a little bit.
Sure.
Yeah, thanks
for having us.
I thought we would start with the origin story question. It's a simple question, but not always an easy one. Tell us about yourself. What's your background? What have you done with your life up until now? And what are you doing in the present moment?
Well, let's see. So I grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. My father was a musician, jazz musician, sax player back there. So I was kind of inspired to do music and from a young age. And I went on to study music education at West Virginia University. And then I moved out to San Diego about 8 years ago and started teaching up in Encinitas for a few years, and all the while playing in bands and recording and writing music and doing all that stuff too, and teaching. And I've been at Einstein for the past, I think this is my fourth or fifth.
Sounds about right.
Something like that. Yeah.
We kind of lose track with the COVID years.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, and we've got a band program going on at the middle school. We've got an orchestra program going on at the elementary school, and this year we started a jazz band we've had a jazz band before, but this year we have like the biggest jazz band that we've had. There's like 30 kids in it, so it's like a full big band. So that's been a lot of the focus recently for me, but yeah.
Do you still play in bands outside of?
Yeah, I'm still playing. The past like 2 years, not quite as much, but I play in a band called the Surefire Soul Ensemble. It's like a funk, soul jazz kind of group. And then I play in another group. It's actually Mitchum Yakub, who also works at AEA. He writes and records like a ton of music, and we have another group with him, and it's more like Afrobeat, Latin, stuff like that. But yeah.
We'll try to get some of that. We'll get the name of your band there in the show notes, so we can drive all our thousands of followers to go to your concerts.
Yeah, there we go.
Frau Claudia, where are you from? What brought you to the present moment?
I'm from Austria, and I moved to San Diego in 2000. And before I came here, I was a preschool teacher in Austria for 11 years. And during my youth, I used the Montessori approach and the Waldorf approach in my classrooms. And my background in music stems from my family. My father, a phenomenal organist and pianist. My mother, a singer. Together, they had a choir for many years. I sang in their choir. I was in kids' choirs, jazz ensembles, musicals. So pretty much music I had music in my life all the time. And in my classroom in Austria, I actually had an Orff instrument corner. And that was in use daily. And I would teach kids just a xylophone, glockenspiel.
What is an Orff instrument?
Orff instruments are instruments like xylophones, glockenspiel, and the kids can pick them up pretty quickly and easily with color-coded cards, and they would just play melodies and accompany songs then. So when I came here in 2000, I had a daughter who in 2005 started a school at AEA, and Frau Holt was the one who actually brought me in when I told her that I play the guitar and I sing and that I was a preschool teacher for all these years. She said, okay, Wednesdays, 8:30, my class. And I started to volunteer in my daughter's classroom, and then the word spread and other teachers asked me to come into the classroom as well and sing German songs, play German games, and support the German language. And this is actually how my path started, that I am now teaching German through music and movement. And it all started volunteering in Frau Holt's classroom.
I'll have to remind her that, I'm sure she remembers, she's coming on the podcast in a couple weeks. So
yeah, let her know.
I'll have to remind her if she doesn't remember.
Yeah. And it started out with 1 hour a week, and then 2 hours a week, 4, 6, 8, 9, and now years later, I am teaching this as a full-time position since 2014.
And we were talking prior to recording that you may be the only person on earth, well, you're probably the only person in the United States teaching German language acquisition through music and movement.
That is correct. Yeah, probably one of the rare ones. Yeah. And I built and created throughout all these years. I wrote my own curriculum from TK now to 5th grade. And the curriculum aligns with the IB program.
It's kind of the ultimate example of a grassroots movement, right? It started almost by accident.
Yeah.
And when you're good, then you go viral, even if you don't intend it to be that way.
That's correct.
Did you attend a Waldorf school? yourself?
Pardon me?
Did you go to a Waldorf school?
No, I didn't. But schools in Austria growing up, they are, back then, Friedrich Fröbel, who was a German educator, it's the approach playing through game. Mm-hmm. So when I taught, it was you would set up the classroom and game supported their learning, and especially social emotional learning was the number one key to install in young students.
Full disclosure, I attended Waldorf school, K-12 rather. And my daughter did too, K-8 in San Diego. So she and I were laughing. We said we were going to do a podcast episode about all the eccentricities of Waldorf schools. So there's a lot to recommend it as well, but it's certainly not mainstream in the United States.
No.
And there's some parts that can be seen as kind of odd. But one of the things that Waldorf schools I think do really well is their focus on the arts and aesthetics and attachment to things like wonder and awe in perceiving the world that is often, I think, lost in public education in the United States.
Yeah.
And when a couple episodes ago, I talked to Dr. Fisher from San Diego State, and we were speaking about classroom environments and this phenomena that we have of classroom environments that never remove anything. It's like your closet at home that you haven't removed any clothing, even though it might not fit, or the style, like a white leather tie from 1980 and parachute pants, might not even be cool, and it's still got it in there. And over a career, people just keep adding to what they have in their classroom. Cluttered walls, some of it intentional, some not. We were talking about that, and the antidote to that, or the opposite counterexample, is kind of the way Waldorf schools would do that, right? With intentional use of color, and it's maybe not always attached to clear learning outcomes, but it's a completely different approach.
The same thing with Montessori. I have a Montessori background and a degree in Montessori education, 2.5 to 6 years, and I worked here at a Montessori school for a year. And how you declutter the classroom and purposely set up just specific activities to not overwhelm students.
Right. It's interesting, right? You reflect on the way we decorate our own homes compared to the way we decorate or organize classrooms. Sometimes it's very different. Can you, both of you, either of you, speak to the neurological benefit or the learning benefit of music as it extends to other parts of the curriculum? So, for example, Claudia, you've spoken about music and language and how those are intertwined. And, maybe, Travis, you could speak about that as well in the context of how music is an integral part of the curriculum rather than an enrichment that so many of us still refer to it as.
Right. I think the biggest benefit that I see kids getting is independence and just like being able to figure things out on their own. Because there's so much with music. And I read a book by this bass player, Victor Wooten, and there was like a quote in there, I'll never forget it. And he was taking lessons with a teacher, and he asked the teacher to show him how to do something. And the teacher was like, I can't really show you how to do it. I can only explain how I do it. And it's up to you to figure it out. You know what I mean? So I think with kids studying music, a lot of it, there's a lot of independence in their learning where they really have to dig deep inside to figure out how to do something. Especially with playing an instrument, there's just some stuff that you can't really verbally explain. So I think the kids are able to take that into other subjects, and that's what I've noticed a lot, at least with a lot of my students, is them developing that independence.
And they also have, with the right teaching, they have a clear example of what the intended outcome is.
Right.
It may seem like a bridge too far at times, right? If you're playing as the teacher, or you show them a video of a maestro doing something, but at least they have an aspirational goal. I think very often in other areas of our curriculum, students aren't even really certain what they're aiming for. Like if I asked you to come here today and you didn't know why you were coming here, like, hey, can we chat? That's very different from, hey, I'd really like you to come. This is the purpose, and here's some guiding questions at the front end, and this is kind of how we hope it looks. Right. That's what I played violin and viola for years and years, not terribly well, but I have recently taken up the viola again. I'm fiddling around with it, no pun intended.
Nice.
And it's really struck me as deeply gratifying, even though I'm not very good, but when you make these incremental improvements and you go, I can do that. I'm not sure kids are necessarily always doing that in other areas of their learning.
Right.
Yeah. I just picked up piano recently. Greta was the one who got me into it and said, hey, I'm taking lessons through this app, Simply Piano.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, you know what? I need to try this. And now I can also experience it on the back end, how students approach something new, and that circles back to you with the independent learning and the joy you get out of to master something that is so new, but it also makes you humble, and you understand how students struggle with something or have to work through something difficult, but then you can play a song and it's so much fun. Right. And it's something that makes you proud.
Yeah, I was speaking with someone recently about the value that comes from understanding what the struggle entails as a learner, because oftentimes as educators you become really proficient in something, and that doesn't necessarily mean that that's easy to convey to a student. Some of the best athletes are terrible coaches.
Yeah.
And it's oftentimes actually middle of the pack to low in the pack players who go on to be the best coaches because they understand what that was like. Michael Jordan, perhaps one of the greatest basketball players of all time, was a terrible coach and a terrible general manager too. It's probably the only thing he's done in his life that's not successful. He just couldn't. He didn't have the patience and the ability to walk someone through something step by step and say, hey, you're going to get there if you do these things. I'll be patient but supportive with you. Right. I think those are really, I think back to the best music teachers I had, and I used to, my stomach would be in knots every Tuesday night because I had a really strict viola teacher. And she would, whatever, the week before she would assign, hey, do these scales, do this, practice this. And I would wait till the night before and practice, and that never turns out right. But one of the things that I really appreciated about her is that she could simplify things to my level. She was pretty accomplished as a musician, but not New York Philharmonic level. But she played in a lot of shows in New York City on Broadway behind the scenes, and that's how she made her living outside of teaching classes. But what kept me somewhat motivated was she would say, hey, you know what, your goal is to, at this point, not trying to emulate New York Philharmonic, but just try this and this and this. I think that's really the power too.
Yeah.
In any of the arts, right? You can, and then as you say, Travis, along the way, the journey sometimes leads you a little bit afield, right? You probably see students pick up an instrument and play it in a way that you haven't even intentionally taught them. They start to play around with it as well.
Yep, figuring stuff out on their own and exploring all those ideas, and it's really cool. And
a jazz band is its own adventure.
It's totally it's a language in its own too. Like to learn that style of music is it's like picking up another language.
How do you both deal with the reality that it's highly unlikely that what you're teaching your kids in your classes, it's highly unlikely that music is on their Spotify playlists or in their homes, unless they come from very odd homes or unusual homes, like the one I grew up in, which I won't mention on here. Mom, I love you. But how do you do that, right? So the kids come in and they've got whatever, they listen to, I couldn't even quote what's pop and hip now, but whatever, they're listening to it on the way to school, and then they have Frau Claudia teaching them
children's
songs in German.
Yes.
How do you, and Travis, same thing, jazz, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't think they're rocking jazz when they're hanging out with their buddy after school.
Right.
So how do you approach that?
I think it's, in my case, it's the simplicity of the songs that the students enjoy, because it's one thing to listen to whatever is going on in the radio. It is cool, it makes you move, it makes you dance, but it is overwhelming. It's heavy with instruments. And now here I come with just the guitar. We sing very slowly, it's very simple, and they can manage the simplicity. And I think it's also, especially for the young ones, the cool thing that they sing something different in a different language, which is initially challenging. And then when I come in and I start out, and I am pretty much the only person singing, and just when you think, oh my goodness, when are you coming? And I'll stop, all of a sudden they sing along. So they pick up. It takes them a while. And it's the key is repetition. And they manage, and I think that makes them particularly proud. It's the simplicity of the songs, but also it's something new and exciting and different that makes them succeed and enjoy that kind of genre.
Yeah.
Maybe something similar with jazz, right?
Yeah. Well, I think with band, it's funny. There's not that many method books. There's like maybe 3 that are popularly used, and they all are pretty much the same. Like, you're learning like hot cross buns first, then you're Mary Had a Little Lamb, and you're doing this stuff, and like it really depends.
The Suzuki method book, or
the Suzuki was another one too. Did you start on that one?
And then you get to like book 2, and you're really cool. You can show your buddy.
Yeah. But yeah, it all depends on the age, because the first year we did band, it was 6th, 7th, and 8th grade were all beginners, and some of these 8th graders, they're like, teenagers, and like, I feel weird having them play like Mary Had a Little Lamb. They're so over it, they don't. But then the 6th graders, they're young enough where that stuff is like, it's still exciting to just play something with a couple notes, So I feel like I have to be intentional with like when they're starting on those songs, and like realize like, okay, maybe you guys aren't into this one, maybe you're over this, we can skip onto another one, And I've actually been, like, this year I've been writing out a couple, for the jazz band, like, I've been writing out a couple tunes, because, the jazz repertoire for, like, this age group for middle school is, like, some of it can be pretty lame, and it's not really, like, cool sounding, but it doesn't mean that the kids can't play, like, cool sounding stuff that has, like, emotion to it and all that stuff. So I've been, like, finding tunes just songs that I like, that I'm like, okay, there's only a few notes in there. Like, there's no reason why those kids couldn't play that. And I've been like writing a couple things out and bringing that in, and that stuff's been going over pretty well, as opposed to like some of the songs that we got in the book can be kind of unhip, But yeah,
I'd imagine the internet has helped a lot with that too, right? I mean, you can always
totally.
It's interesting, the things that you forget with time and the things you don't forget. So I can't read music anymore. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you tell me that note is this finger on this string, then I can.
Well, you're doing alto clef anyway. I don't know how you ever learned.
So I don't either. So I clearly didn't learn it well enough.
Yeah.
But I can play things by ear and by memory. From the last time I played viola, before I recently picked it up, was 35 years ago.
Wow.
So, I mean, I understand generically how to read music, but I can't look at something. Now when I see people sight read, I'm like, that's like a level of genius that I will never get to, and I don't really want to. But then there are other parts that are kind of deep somewhere in the gray matter that I have a few cells left that work, and I'm like, wow, I can feel it coming back from decades. It's interesting how deep that is.
That's the Suzuki method too. Like from what I understand.
Oh, Claire de la Lune or whatever that.
Yeah. From what I understand, a lot of that stuff you learn by ear first, and then you get the sheet music after, and then learn the sheet music. Right? Is that kind of how it goes?
Yeah, I think that was. I don't.
Yeah.
I think I remember my teacher. Yeah, that's right. The teacher would model it. You'd listen. You'd do it, and then at the end of the class, they'd say, "Okay, go home and do page 14 and 15, and do these."
And then you have the notes, and then you got to look at
them.
To,
and then you need to learn the
practice
music theory, which I also never really absorbed at any appreciably deep level.
Yeah.
But it's fascinating. Do you both also work with adults? Teaching adults?
Well, I teach an adult choir.
Okay.
I have the House of Germany Adult Choir, and I'm directing that choir.
How does that compare to teaching students?
Oh, I love it.
You like the adult level?
Yes, I do.
But it's very different.
Yeah, I mean, I could not see not teaching with children. I'm a teacher for over 30 years now,
right.
And it's my life. But I started it 2 years ago, and I was a little nervous at the beginning because I'm not used to teaching grown-ups, and how would they judge me? And now I say one thing once, and they just understand. So you move faster. It's easier. They're chattier than my classroom, though, so that's a problem.
Yeah, that's a myth, that we need to debunk, right? You think, I'll teach adults and they'll just be really quiet.
Oh, no. They give me a hard time at times. But for me, I like that balance now that I have adults and kids. Mm-hmm. It keeps me sane.
And Travis, you play in bands with adults.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's funny. Yeah, like some rehearsals we'll have, and it's all professional musicians, but it gets very unprofessional sometimes with people just like goofing around, talking, and then I'm like thinking, this is just like my 7th grade. We're acting the exact same as my 7th grade class, But it's kind of cool to see that, like, I don't know. We still feel the same way, as adults playing and rehearsing. Like,
that's right.
We're still goofing around, getting the job done, having fun. It's kind of the same thing.
Does the same, we always talk about learning foreign language, the plasticity of, we know now from brain research, brains are plastic throughout our entire lives, but there are stages where it's incredibly malleable, right? And especially language learning, the way we all learned our native language. Does the same hold for music? Is it faster and easier when we're younger?
Definitely, because when kids are picking up an instrument or singing, they don't overthink it. And I have students in my children's choir who have a hard time keeping a tune, but they're so excited and they have so much joy of singing. And when you just leave it as it is and appreciate the joy behind what they're doing, they are successful. And they are approaching it without this, how do I sound? What if I make a fool out of myself?
They're not self-monitoring.
No, they just dive right into it, and they learn, and they can sing, or they learn an instrument. They play the guitar because they don't overthink it, and they make a lot quicker and faster progress than compared when you're older.
Probably the same applies for language learning too, right? I mean, you think about trying to learn a foreign language. None of us can ever remember learning our native language, right? It happened organically over time, and we never felt embarrassed when we called something by the wrong name. But once you started as an adult, or even as a teen, I just came back. I was with my mom in Oaxaca a year ago, and we had a great time, a great tour, a culinary tour, and she was diligently studying Spanish on Duolingo for 3 months. I think my mom is number 2 in the world on on the platinum level of Duolingo. Nice. She's at very high. She does it every day, and she's got the time to do it. And so she could understand a lot. She could read a lot. She had some advantages because she had been a French teacher in an earlier version of herself. But then when coming to the speaking part, and I understand this because I've gone through this too, she was really terrified. I'd say, hey, why don't you order at the restaurant? No, you do it. I want to listen to how it is. And little kids would never do that.
No, right. Man, when I came here in 2000, my English skills were minor. Mm-hmm. And people thought of me that I'm a very shy person, but I was just so worried that I sound silly when I say something, so I chose not to talk. And now 20 years later, I think I'm okay. You will always hear an accent. And the fascinating part is with our Einstein kids, they start at 5. You hear them talk at the age of 10, and where is their American accent when they speak German? They don't have one. Right. But when you're an adult learner, unless you're a genius, you cannot ever cover it up. Somebody asked me, oh, how are you? I say, I'm well, thank you. Oh, where are you from? Yeah. So immediately they know I am not American.
Right. It's interesting. And I don't even know if the no accent thing is something ultimately we need to really chase, right? Someone said to me, hey, look, governor of California, multi-millionaire in a bunch of movies, whether you think they're good or not, they were successful at the box office. Governor of California, would have run for president if he had been born in the U.S. Henry Kissinger, I still can't understand him, but he became Secretary of State, and so it's that's an interesting thing. Plus, we all have accents. When I first came to California from New York, I thought everybody had an accent. Well, they had one compared to me, and they all thought I had one.
Oh yeah.
So. Yeah, I'm sorry, I cut you off, Travis. You were going to say something.
Oh, I don't know if I was, but I guess just going back to the language, like learning language and learning music. It's like when we're born, we're kind of just thrown into it we're hearing professional speakers speak all around us all the time, our parents and stuff like that. And it's kind of like with music the same way. Like, I feel like if you can be immersed in it and allowed to play with professionals, you know what I mean, and be guided by that, and also be like allowed to make mistakes too, because like when you're a little kid, like we were saying with speaking, you can make as many mistakes as you want. Nobody ever calls you out on it, right? So it's even with learning music, I feel like that I try to do an approach like that. I try to play with the kids as much as possible and like let them make mistakes and stuff, because I feel like there's a huge correlation between learning language and learning music,
So fear of judgment is a huge piece, right? And oftentimes we're by far the worst, the harshest critics of our own performance. Right. Oh my God, I can't. I remember when I was learning Spanish, and I was very fortunate because I had grant funding to live and travel in Central America and work. But for the first 3 to 4 months, I felt like just a shy little, as you say, Claudia, a shy little 5-year-old kid in an adult world. Yeah. And finally I got up the courage, but I still had to set up structure so I wasn't tempted to speak English. I stopped hanging out with anybody who spoke English. I kind of forced myself. But it's stressful and tiring, exhausting. If you ever try to learn a foreign language as you have, it's exhausting in the beginning.
It is.
Just like your brain is like, oh my God, I'm trying to do 2 times the work. Yeah. For you guys, it's easy. You pick up the phone rings. We don't think about, but when you're learning another language, the phone rings and you're thinking, will I understand what they're saying? Because it has no context.
Oh, wait, that was terrifying for me talking to a doctor's office at the beginning. Yeah. So my voice would always rise up because I was under so much stress.
So we've learned your trick. Whenever you're in a staff meeting and you go like that, we know you're stressed. So I wanted to pivot a little bit. Actually, it's on the same line of kind of career trajectory. What have been your greatest career successes, or the things that have brought you the greatest satisfaction to date? And then we'll do the opposite, your greatest frustration. So let's start first with greatest success / satisfaction.
It's hard for me to think of because I never really, I don't know. It's one of those things that I don't feel like I'm ever going to claim that something was my greatest success, just because I feel like it's always going to be moving further and further away, but I guess, this...
What's brought you joy so far?
I guess, like, this year, I could think of something. Like, I had one of my students got accepted into the Young Lions Jazz Conservatory this year, which he'd only been playing trumpet he just started last year. Luca Basilico. He's started a year ago, and he got into that, and then also got into, like, the San Diego Unified Honors Middle School Jazz program. So, like, for this year, like, that to me, I was like, all right, cool. I feel like I'm doing a good job with that stuff, so that felt satisfying. But, as far as career stuff, I don't know. We'll see.
Is there an inborn, or I don't know if that's the right word, is there an inherent ability to pick up instruments and be able to play them that some folks have and some don't? Almost like athletic talent.
I definitely think, some people can pick stuff up, and some people can pick one instrument up and be really good at it. Some people can pick up every instrument and be able to play them. It's just like people have certain things worked out, in their mind before, or like myself, I know that I pick instruments up easily, but it's often because I think about playing other instruments that I haven't even played before. Like, I'll imagine, like, I wonder how that works. Like, so then when you actually go to pick it up, it makes it a little easier. So, I think.
Claudia, successes.
Oh.
We'll come back to your comment about the inherent traits that people have. But what career success trajectory to date?
Well, my biggest pride or success was the completion of a bachelor's degree and a master's degree and multi-subject teaching credential and single subject teaching credential in just 4 years.
Wow.
So
all of that in 4 years.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad you mentioned that, because I was going to mention it in this podcast. I didn't want to make you feel uncomfortable and on the spot in front of millions of people. But you're far too humble, but this is a true story, is that several years, it was years ago, we started these conversations and between Frau Claudia and the principal, et cetera, about how my career trajectory and how can I officially, quote unquote, become a teacher. And with all the privileges and the compensation and everything that affords. And I remember the conversations were around, like, well, here's the credential. And, in all my time at Einstein, 17 years and ticking, I think that's the first time I've seen someone, or one of the very first times, where someone went from not having a bachelor's to get the credential and a master's degree.
Yeah. And
that's a humbling thing for me to see. So I really respect the heck out of you for that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
That was, I think, the hardest thing I've done in my life. And during that time, I also a single mother.
Yeah.
Wow. And I worked full time.
Yeah.
So, and yes, like you said, this has been an ongoing conversation, because I got my education in Austria as a preschool teacher. Unfortunately, did not transfer over here. And here I am. What can I do? How can we do it? And the principals were, shout out to Greta especially, very, very supportive and pushing me. And in 2018, I started taking classes. I did, however, by then took me 11 years to get my associate's degree.
Wow.
So I started in 2001 taking English as a German language class at the City College. And then I had to take 2 pre-reading and writing classes. Then I had to take pre-math classes. So after 2.5 years, 3 years, I finally was able to take my first college level classes, because I had to fulfill
You had to
those.
do the basic requirements.
And then my kids were little at the time, so I did 1 or 2 classes at a time, thinking this will get me nowhere. So 10 years, 11 years later, taking 1 class at a time, twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I was at the community college. I got my associate's degree, but then life happened and I had to put this all on ice and thought, okay, now I'm a full-time mother. How shall I do this? And then I found online programs. 2018, I decided to dive in. Got my the remainder I did in 1 year. And the teaching credentials. Then I added on the master's, got that done in 1 year, and added on my German single subject credential. And last year I did my BITSA, the induction program.
Yep.
Finished that, and now this year I feel like
You have all this free time.
I have all this free time.
And it's really for anybody who, so first of all, most good things in life are hard, right?
Yeah.
Or they're a journey. And there are a lot of times when you go, I can't see the end of this. I don't know what's happening.
No.
How am I ever going to get there? So persistence and grit and resilience are so
And discipline.
important. Discipline.
I mean, I worked summer through winter. It was year round.
Right.
I would get up every day at 6:30, and I was on the computer at 7 a.m. I worked till 3 p.m. in the afternoon, and then I would do something with my kids. So that was the routine.
And what a powerful example for your kids too.
Yeah.
You know, they may or may not tell you that now, but they're going to carry that forward into their lives, right?
I know, and they pick up, and they are very proud.
Yeah. So, greatest challenges or something that you wish, if you had a magic wand that you could change in, let's focus it a little bit. Music education. Biggest challenges or frustrations or something that you wish we could change just in general related to this area of study in schools?
I wish it would be mandatory and part of the curriculum in all schools. I think music is such an enriching, engaging, creative way to open not just children's, youth's minds, adults' minds. It's amazing they learn amazing social, emotional skills. It gives them a break from the academics. It refreshes their minds. It actually triggers areas in your brain that make you smarter and learn easier. And I wish if I had a magic wand that it is understood and woven into a curriculum, that they get it not just every once in a while, but it should be at least twice a week, part of the curriculum. And I think everybody should learn how to read music. It should be part of a standard education. You learn your ABCs, you should be able to read some basic music.
And once you can read music, you got your fractions already taken care of, right?
Yep.
Yeah, math and music are very close connected.
Yeah.
The beats, the rhythm, and I think it's just a wonderful tool for learning.
Yeah, I really wish there was more people were literate with reading music. I mean, and everybody I know and people I play with too, like, man, I really wish I could read charts and make everything so much easier. You know, I could show up to a gig and just be able to read it or whatever. But even for people that aren't just musicians, it's helpful. And yeah, I feel like
Paul McCartney can't read music, just so you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Like I feel like a lot of like that movie when School of Rock came out, I feel like people's perception of what
With
like
Jack Black.
Yeah, what music education was like that. You know, they thought that's what we were doing in the classrooms. You know?
Please no.
Which is
no.
I mean, in Austria, music is standard curriculum, and every kid know how to read basic music. So when I went to school from grade 1 on, we played the recorder. We played Mary Had a Little Lamb, the German version of it, Alle meine Entchen. But you learn to read music. And yes, you pass out the chart by the time you're in middle school. And like, oh, yeah, okay, that makes sense. Okay, I know what to do now.
Yeah, and of course there'll always be a place for people who pick up an instrument and play it and don't.
Oh yeah.
They're playing it by ear, but I mean, I think there's that discipline of I remember when I was in high school, we had to do these things called juries, where you'd have to go in and play. Once a year, you'd have to go in front of the music department, and you had to do like a prepared piece, and then they would tell you to play a scale just on demand, and then you had to sight read. And I remember I was playing a piece, and it was called a gigue. I guess that's how you pronounce it in French, right? G-I-G-E or whatever. G-I-G-U-E.
Okay.
Anyway, it's a French piece. And I remember I got up there, and they said, "What are you going to play?" And I said, "I'm going to play a gig." And I didn't know what that was, but they've all played in bands at night. And so I'm there, and I'm probably, 13, 14, and the little guy didn't have a mustache. And I said, "I'm going to play a gig," and they all almost fell out of their chairs laughing.
Oh my gosh.
And I thought it was that they were laughing at me, but they really weren't. So
That's terrifying.
It's terrifying. But I think back to that thing about the discipline of at least having a conceptual understanding about music, right? And the genius also that goes into composing. I'm amazed when both of you are saying you compose, you create, you write music in preparation for the curriculum. There's not a lot of ready-made stuff. You can't just download it online and prepare in 5 minutes. You really have to go deep in there. I have a lot of respect for people who compose and understand how to get what's in the mind and the heart out onto a page. To me, it's amazing.
Yeah.
So I hope if anybody listening to this, they take at least that away, that from the real deep, there's the science of teaching, and then there's also this art side that is harder to quantify and harder to put your thumb on it. And maybe that's part of the reason that music's not so universally accepted in the United States as a curricular area in school. Maybe it's hard to teach people to teach other people music. I don't know.
Right.
I've reflected on that. Like, maybe there was a time in the past, and I should know more than I should have done research on this, but maybe there was a time that when music was really central to schools, and maybe over time it's gotten squeezed out.
Yeah.
I mean, when's the last time you heard about international comparisons of music achievement? You never hear about that.
No.
You never hear that the Finns are beating us at original composition or something. It's always math achievement, reading, scores, sports.
Yeah.
So when's the last time it was in an artistic area? I think art teachers would be sitting right next to you. Visual and performing arts would be sitting right next to you, saying the same thing about what they do, right? That why isn't that mandatory?
Right.
Exactly.
So it's an interesting thing to reflect on. Who are your role models? Not Paul McCartney.
Yeah. I go through phases with like having role models. I guess my first one would have been my dad. He's a saxophone player, jazz musician, and I always looked up to him as a kid. And then in middle school, I had a really awesome band director that Mr. Petrossi, that I looked up to a lot. And then I guess I had a private teacher that taught me saxophone lessons through high school I used to look up to. And then when I got to college, my professor, Dr. Ibrahim, was like my absolute, like everything about him, like not only his playing, but just his attitude, like even the way he dressed. I thought he was just the coolest person ever. He was a big role model for me. And I learned a lot about music and teaching from him. And then once I moved to San Diego, I had a role model who was a guitarist I was playing in a band with. His name was Heine. He's a guitarist from Denmark. And just the way that guy could play and just like play a few notes and just people jaws dropped, just like in disbelief. And I'm always thinking, man, I'm playing all these notes like, and when I'm soloing and nobody's even listening, and then he's just playing through. I'm like, what is it? So I kind of clung on to him for a little while. Was a role model. And right now, I don't know.
What kind of music do you listen to? Like for fun, not to plan your lessons.
Mostly soul jazz, funk, jazz, stuff like that. Pretty much instrumental music. Yeah, but late 60s, early 70s soul jazz, stuff like that. That's my favorite, Anything with an organ in it, Yeah.
I remember my dad had an LP, that's how old I am, what was his name? All I remember was Tijuana Brass.
I'm
gonna blank it now. It's gonna drive
Herb
me.
Alpert. Yeah.
Herb Alpert
Yeah.
at the Tijuana Brass.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember him just playing that over and over and
Yep.
over and over again on the record player.
That's good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Frau Claudia, who are your role models?
I was thinking about that for a while, and I come back to my mother.
Mm-hmm.
My role model is my mother. She's still alive. She's 92 years old and not doing so well anymore. But looking back at her life and what her achievements are just remarkable. So not only did she raise 6 kids, had time to entertain a choir, ran her own business out of the house, was my dad's advisor who ran his own business, and was the mayor of our village for 12 years. And she was like the political brain and like literally his advisor. She was the first woman in our village to have a driver's license. She was
Small village?
1,000 people, but still. She brought women together to teach them how to cook with whole wheat and whole grain items, organic food, which was, we're talking now the 70s and the 80s.
Oh, trust me, my mom gave us organic food, and you know how many fights I got into at school because I wanted to have Wonder Bread with peanut butter and jelly that came swirled in the jar, and I had this brown gravel bread, so I'm with
Welcome to my life.
Oh, geez.
I grew up with whole grains and sprouts, and there was no white flour in our household, no white salt, and no white sugar.
That's why your mom's 92.
Yeah. And she was, I always said to her, if you had lived in the medieval times, you would burn as a witch, because she would run around the mountains at certain times of the day, certain times of the year to collect certain herbs. And our attic was filled with herbs. So not only did I grow up all organic, I grew up with all natural remedies. And I could name, like you tell me a disease, I tell you what herb you should swallow. So my mom was, or is, just a remarkable, strong woman.
Wow.
Yeah.
And if she'd been born, 50 years later, she probably would have, been a multimillionaire and had Whole Foods.
She's the CEO of Whole Foods, 100%.
It's interesting. I was raised in I'm going to call it an alternative setting, and my mom had some of those qualities, and I remember you're a kid, and this is pre-internet, and so I never knew that regular over-the-counter or prescription medications even existed.
Yeah.
So I used to get migraines, as a kid, and my mom would put ice on my head and heat on my feet and an onion in some sort of a thing on my temples, and I'm there sick out of my mind, and I didn't know that they had these beautiful little pills that would take care of it. And so
in 20 minutes.
In 20 minutes, and here I'm suffering the whole day, missing school.
For me, it was ginger, galgant, and pear mousse for migraines.
So
yeah.
I feel like our moms could hang out and have a good time together. Yes. So when I remember when I started to go to the dentist, I don't know how old you are, 4 or 5, whatever, but the dentist would always say, "Raise your hand if this hurts." So I was always raising my hand. I didn't know that there was such a thing as Novocaine. So I remember the first tooth I had that was drilled with no painkiller. I mean, medieval, about medieval torture beyond. And so if you just play the sound of a drill right now, I start to sweat. Mm-hmm. And years later, my mom said, "You know what? I probably should have managed that a little bit differently. But the poor dentist was almost in tears because for all his other patients, he just gave them some injections, chatted for 10 minutes, and then they drill and be done. So yeah, it's interesting.
Same.
Okay. Yeah. So our moms definitely need to hang out.
Yeah.
In a minute, I'm going to ask you a question that's not on here that I didn't want to give you in advance because I want it to be spontaneous. But before that, where can people find you? Online, social media? I know, Claudia, you're involved with an adult choir. Travis, you have a band. Social media? Any social media handles or anything? Websites?
Most of my work is actually on the school website.
Okay.
Because,
we'll link to that in the show notes. Yeah.
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 Because the recordings I did throughout the years at the studio, I linked them all for students to use and parents to use on the website. But other than that, no, I think I'm pretty humble when it comes to social media.
Yeah.
I try to not... It's a personal choice that I rather not engage.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if you want to look up my band, the Surefire Soul Ensemble, I think like the handle is just at Surefire Soul Ensemble.
Great.
And yeah, there's music up on Spotify. There's an Instagram, Facebook, all that stuff. You can check it out. But yeah.
Before I get to that surprise question, it just occurred to me, both of you. You may not see yourselves as entrepreneurs, but you are, because you both have created programs from whole cloth. I think in Frau Claudia's case, it's the gift that keeps on giving. You are a volunteer, and now 20 years later, you have your master's and your credential, and you're teaching. You got a program. You built it from nothing. And in Travis's case, I know you're very humble, but I remember when you first joined us, and there was also nothing. And we said, hey, we got a grant. Shout out to our foundation friends of Albert Einstein Academies for the support and parent donations, et cetera. But we're like, hey, here's some instruments. And oh, by the way, we don't even have cupboards to store them in. And now fast forward 5 years, and you've got 30-piece jazz band and playing at graduations and events. What kind of advice would you guys give to someone who is passionate about something but may not yet see the path forward to creating either a career or something that's really meaningful to them to give back to the world? What kind of advice would you give people?
Just follow your passion, go for it, and there is not a rock in the way that you can't build something out of it. So even if things seem hard and impossible, if you put your mind to it, you can do anything. And you can create a program out of nothing. But you have to be the kind of person, too, who is not shy of taking on a challenge. So, but my advice is just reach for the stars and go for it. Don't overthink it.
Yeah, I guess my advice would be don't be afraid to ask for help or ask like others who have done it before, or, even if somebody hasn't done exactly what you're doing, somebody who has accomplished something, in a similar trajectory, ask for help. That's something I wish, in my life, if I could go back, I wish I would have asked for more help with, tons of different things, but, yeah, I'd say don't be afraid to ask for help.
And maybe also not be afraid of failure, because a lot of it is trial and error, especially when you start something new. You don't know, and you try it out, and it is okay to mess up and go back and say, well, that didn't work, so let me try it this way. And eventually you find something that works for your personality, but also works for the people you're working for. And give it a try. There's nothing wrong.
Yeah, I think in thinking about the fact that charter schools are entrepreneurial in nature, that that's why I really wanted to have both of you on as well, because you've built something really beautiful out of nothing. And the organization met you, and you met the organization at the right times to make that happen as well. And I know I've seen it now where, Travis, you started in middle school exclusively, and now it's stretched now across campuses. And I know we've got future conversations to be had about our high school as well, and how music looks in our high school. But we're definitely designing the future high school building with ample performance space and rehearsal space and storage space. So that's been a top priority. So definitely at the Albert Einstein High School, that'll definitely be a prominent feature.
So there will be music in the high
There
school.
will be music. There will be music
That's
in the
wonderful.
halls.
That
There
is
will be
awesome.
music in the halls. Yeah. So we're looking at some different options, but some performance space with kind of raised stage and
Beautiful.
some of those pieces that you've both done wonderful work without always having access to those kinds of things. You do what you can, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, here's the final question. So I'm going to give you both the chance to design your own billboards for the 5 freeway. Remember, people are driving by at 65 miles an hour. They might have 3 seconds to read it. So you can't write too much on your billboard. But this billboard, you each get a billboard. The billboard is your opportunity to send a message to the world that's driving by and is maybe distracted, sending a message to the world about your profession and your work in schools and how the importance of it and how you feel about it. So what would that billboard say, for future generations after you're retired and in Panama relaxing on the beach?
So help me again. The billboard?
The billboard will be your message to the world.
Okay.
Frau Claudia's message to the world that encapsulates the passion that you've shared with us on today's interview about music and teaching music.
I need a moment to think about that one. Do you have any?
Traffic.
Yeah,
Traffic's going by.
This is a quote from my dad that he always used to say, but I'd put being cool as a full-time job. Right? Yeah. I don't know. But,
What does that mean?
Just be cool, Everybody's got to
just be cool
and play an instrument. That's what I put on there.
Pick up an instrument. Be cool. What is it? Being cool is a full-time job. Play an instrument.
Yeah, there we go.
That's pretty. You could read that in 3 seconds.
Yeah,
that's great. Okay, the pressure's on.
Well,
you can quote your mom too. It might be something about herbs or something.
No, I catch myself saying a lot that sentence. It is what it is. And I have made that kind of my statement a few years ago when things didn't look out that well. It is what it is, meaning so just accept the present, the presence, and present.
The presence of the present.
Yeah, thank you.
There you go.
Thank you. Accept for what it is. But then also, if there's a rock in your way, use it and build something with it. So don't say, it is what it is, give up.
And give up.
But do something with it.
Those are perfect sentiments to wrap up today's conversation. Being cool is a full-time job, and it is what it is, but when there's something in your way, use it to build something even better. Thank you, Claudia and Travis, for your time today and for just being willing to share your expertise and your passion and your honesty with our community.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Thank you for listening to the Superintendent's Hangout. You can follow me on Twitter at DVS1970. Please be sure to share this show with friends and family on social media and in the real world. Thank you to Brad Bacayal for editing and production assistance, and to Tina Royster for scheduling and logistics. Thanks for hanging out, and have a great day.